Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. I'd love it if you could leave a comment letting me know where you're listening from around the world. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe if you're enjoying this video. Story 1. I never believed in ghosts. Not really. I've worked night shifts long enough to know the human mind loves to play games in the dark. When it's just you, a flashlight, and the hum of dying fluorescent lights, your thoughts become the real horror show. But what happened that night? It wasn't my imagination. I know what I saw. I was the night security guard for West Point Mall, a place that looked clean and corporate on the surface, but had a belly full of dust, rats, and forgotten echoes. I'd worked there 6 years without incident. The worst I ever dealt with was a drunk teen trying to sneak into the food court freezer. That night, though, that night was different. It was a Tuesday. Quiet. Cold. The kind of night that feels like the air itself is holding its breath. I remember checking my phone. 2:27 a.m. I was halfway through my third patrol of the night. The west wing of the mall, the long, empty corridor past the old movie theater, was always the creepiest part. Something about the silence there wasn't right. It felt thick, like walking through fog you couldn't see. I turned the corner into that wing. The place was dead. Every shop was shuttered. The light above the jewelry store flickered like always. It had been doing that for months, and no one bothered fixing it. I was halfway down the hall when I heard it. Footsteps. Not mine. They were soft, but they were there, pacing behind me, just a few feet back. I stopped. My heart thumped once hard. The steps didn't stop. I spun around, flashlight raised. No one. Just rows of locked stores, a dead hallway, and that damned flickering light. Now, I've heard footsteps echo before. I've heard weird mechanical thuds and distant AC units groaning like dying animals. But this was different. I was being followed. I told myself it was in my head. Just nerves. I kept walking, slower now, listening. My boots echoed against the tiles. Then I heard it again, just behind me. Step for step, back in the control room, I went straight for the footage. My hands shook as I scrubbed through the security cam from the West Wing. At first, it looked normal, just me doing my rounds. But when I slowed it down, frame by frame, my stomach dropped. In the reflection of the jewelry store's glass, there was someone behind me, not on the main footage. Only in the reflection. A man, dressed in a faded blue janitor's uniform. No ID badge. No name patch. Just blank. His face was wrong. Like it couldn't decide what to be. Blurry. Shifting. As if the camera couldn't get a read on it. He walked in perfect sync with me. Hands at his sides. Head tilted slightly. I paused the video. Sweat rolled down my back. There were no janitors scheduled that night. I called the maintenance manager. Woke him up. He was annoyed but confirmed it. No janitors on duty after 11 p.m. I had to be sure. I went back downstairs to the janitor's closet near the West Wing. The hallway was even colder now. The kind of cold that gets into your bones and makes your teeth ache. I opened the closet slowly. It was empty, except there were muddy footprints leading in from the hallway into the room, but none leading back out. And they were wet. Not dried mud, not smudged. Fresh, like someone had just walked in moments before I opened the door. That was it for me. I sat in the control room until sunrise. Lights on full blast. Didn't move. Didn't check the cameras again. When the day shift arrived, I handed in my badge and walked out. Didn't even ask for my last paycheck. 2 weeks later, I got a text from Marty, the guy who took over my shift. He'd laughed when I told him the story, called me superstitious, said the dark just gets into your head. He wasn't laughing anymore. The text came at 3:11 a.m. No message, just a photo. It was from inside the control room. The security monitors were lit up like usual, but one of them showed the hallway outside the room, and standing there was him. That same man, same uniform, same blank face, standing inches from the door, and he was smiling. Not a friendly smile, not a welcome. The kind of smile you'd expect from someone who's been waiting a very long time and finally found what he was looking for. I stared at the image for a long time, thought about replying, thought about warning him. But what could I say? That man, he doesn't follow rules. He's not part of this world. He's something that lives in between, something the cameras don't want to catch, something that shows up only in the places we aren't supposed to look. And if you do look, he might just start looking back. Story 2. I was the kind of person who liked the silence. Or maybe I just grown used to it. When you work as an editor for a small town newspaper that's barely hanging on by a thread, you get used to a lot of things. Late nights, cold coffee, creaky floors, and a building that moans like it's remembering something. Something it doesn't want to. I've been working there for nearly 8 years. Always the last one to leave. Always the one who locked up. It was a Thursday night. The kind of night when the wind outside sounds like it's whispering secrets and the fluorescent lights overhead buzz just a little too loud. It was late, past 11 p.m., and I was editing a piece about a local school board scandal that, frankly, didn't interest anyone but the 2 angry parents who kept emailing us. Everyone else had left hours ago. The place was dead quiet, except for the dull hum of the vending machine and the steady rhythm of my fingers tapping the keys. My cubicle sat at the far end of the office, back near the windows that overlooked Main Street. I always liked being away from the others. Fewer interruptions, less small talk. I was mid-sentence when I heard it. Typing, not mine. A rapid, frantic clicking of keys coming from the cubicle next to mine. Sarah's desk. Only Sarah had gone home at 6. I stopped typing. The sound didn't. It continued. Fast, almost angry, as if someone was punching each key like it owed them something. I leaned back in my chair and listened. I told myself it was probably my own echo, or maybe someone left their screen on, some software glitching. But it wasn't that kind of sound. This was different. I stood. My shoes squeaked on the old linoleum as I walked a few steps to Sarah's cubicle. I peeked around the divider. Empty. The monitor was off. The chair was pushed in neatly, just as she always left it. But the keyboard was moving. Keys pressing down one after another. Fast. Hard. But there was no one sitting there. No hands. No fingers, just the keys moving like they were being played by an invisible force. I froze. The room felt colder all of a sudden, like someone had opened a window I didn't know existed. I stared for a full 10 seconds, too stunned to speak. Then I stepped in slowly, heart hammering, and reached down toward the keyboard to unplug it. Just before I touched the wire, the monitor flickered on. A blank Word document appeared. Then, letters began to type across the screen, one at a time. I never left. I'm still working. And then it started again. I never left. I'm still working. I never left. I'm still working. over and over, line after line, the screen filled with it, like some kind of mechanical chant. I stumbled back, tripped over the corner of the desk, and fell hard on the floor. My elbow scraped against the filing cabinet. It hurt, but I barely noticed. I bolted out of the office, didn't stop running until I was in my car with the doors locked and the engine roaring like it could protect me. I didn't sleep that night. Didn't go back in the next day until noon. When I walked in, the office felt normal. Too normal. Almost like nothing had happened. But I couldn't shake the feeling something was waiting for me. Watching. I found my boss at his desk, sipping coffee like it was any other day. I pulled him aside. "Hey," I said, trying to sound casual. "Who used to sit at Sarah's desk before she came on?" He looked at me. Really looked. The way someone does when they're deciding whether or not to lie. Then he sighed. "That was Mark's desk." I felt a strange chill ripple down my back. Mark Sanderson," he said, lowering his voice like the name itself was something sacred or cursed. "He was our night editor before you. Worked here 15 years. He died right at that desk." My stomach twisted. "Died?" I asked, barely getting the word out. "Stroke," he said. "Massive one. The cleaner found him the next morning. He was still sitting upright, hands frozen on the keyboard. Screen was full of nonsense letters. I didn't say anything. I couldn't. My mouth had gone dry. He gave me a small, sad smile. We cleaned up the desk, replaced the monitor, keyboard, everything. But Sarah says it feels cold sometimes. I just told her it's the old AC ducts. You know how this place is. Yeah, I knew. That night, I stayed late again. I told myself I had to prove it was in my head. Just stress, just tiredness, just something explainable. I kept the lights bright, drank coffee until my hands shook, and played a podcast out loud to keep the silence away. But at 10:41 p.m., it happened again, from the same cubicle. That typing, this time slower, like it was waiting for me to notice. I didn't check it. I couldn't. I just packed my bag and left. I told myself I'd never stay past 9 again, and I meant it. But sometimes, when I'm working near closing time and everyone's gone home, I still hear it. The faint, steady clack of a keyboard coming from Sarah's desk. And if I wait too long, if I pretend not to notice, the typing moves closer to my cubicle, to my keyboard. And sometimes, just sometimes, when I open a blank document, the words are already waiting. I never left. I'm still working. And the worst part, I think he wants me to finish what he started. Story 3. Working the graveyard shift at the Windmere Hotel was supposed to be a temporary gig. Just something to hold me over while I figured my life out. But weeks turned into months, and before I knew it, I'd become the only night clerk willing to stomach the silence, the creaking floors, and that eerie hum in the walls you couldn't quite place. The Windmere wasn't your average hotel. It was one of those old brick buildings with too many corners and narrow halls that made you feel like someone was always watching from around the bend. Guests came and went, mostly truckers, salesmen, and the occasional insomniac on a road trip to nowhere. But the real dread didn't come from the guests. It came from the basement. That place had a way of pressing on your chest the moment you stepped through the door. Cold, dry air, stale and heavy, like the place hadn't breathed in years. That's where we kept the extra linens, old furniture, and cleaning supplies. The kind of place where the walls remember things, where the dust doesn't just settle, It hides. One night, it was close to 4 in the morning. I just made myself some bitter coffee when the phone rang from room 312. A man asked for 2 towels. His voice was quiet, raspy, like he'd smoked every day of his life, and then some. He didn't say please, just I need 2 towels. Now, I wanted to argue, wanted to remind him that room service didn't run this late. But instead, I found myself saying, I'll bring them right up, like my mouth was on autopilot. The towels, of course, were in the basement. I grabbed the master key, flicked on the small flashlight on my phone, and made my way down. The stairs creaked under my weight. That place had this way of sounding like it was groaning, just to let you know it didn't want you there. The overhead lights buzzed and flickered as I reached the landing, and right as I stepped onto the concrete floor, boom, total darkness. The light bulbs popped like someone had shot them out with a BB gun. I cursed under my breath. My flashlight barely did anything, just carved a narrow tunnel of light that vanished a few feet ahead. But I knew the way. 3rd door on the left. Linen closet. In and out. I took a deep breath and pushed forward. My footsteps echoed. Every sound was too loud, like the basement was amplifying my presence. Each step made the air colder. By the time I reached the door, I could see my breath. That wasn't normal. The linen closet door was wide open. That definitely wasn't normal. And then I heard it behind me, breathing. Not soft, not human. It was deep, wet, like someone drowning slowly, trying to suck air through a collapsed lung. I froze. That sound was close. Too close. I turned around, my light sweeping the hallway, shaking in my hand. Nothing. No one. But the air felt wrong. It wasn't just cold. It was dead. Sterile. Like a walk-in freezer that hadn't held food in decades. I told myself to hurry. Just grab the towels and get the hell out. I stepped into the room. My hand reached for the stack of towels. And that's when it happened. The heavy metal door slammed shut behind me. I screamed, dropped the flashlight. It hit the floor and spun, throwing crazy shadows across the walls. I grabbed the door handle and yanked. It didn't budge. Help! I screamed. Is anyone there? Nothing. Then I felt it. A hand. Not gripping. Not attacking. Just resting on my back. It was cold. Not regular cold. This was ice in your bones. Death has found you cold. Like a hand that had been buried underground for years. Reaching out just to touch. I didn't move. Couldn't move. I just stood there, paralyzed by that touch. And then light. The overheads flickered to life, stuttering like a dying bulb before fully glowing. The door creaked open on its own. The hand was gone. I stumbled out of that room, heart hammering in my throat, towels forgotten, breath ragged. When I got back upstairs, I told my manager everything. My voice shook. I didn't even care how crazy I sounded. I had to tell someone. He just looked at me, calm, almost bored. That used to be the morgue, he said, like he was talking about a broken vending machine. Back when the building was a hospital in the 50s. We've had other reports. People hearing things, seeing things, feeling cold spots. I asked him why no one ever mentioned it, why we kept sending people down there. He just shrugged. We don't talk about it. That's all he said. We don't talk about it. I didn't quit right away. Bills still needed paying. But I never went down there again. I made excuses, faked injuries, swapped shifts. I didn't care. I wasn't going back. Not even if every guest in that place set their beds on fire. Whatever's in that basement, it doesn't want towels. It wants company, and it's waiting.